While we are waiting for Christine to get that fired up, I can start because I know what the agenda is. So first of all, I just want to welcome you all. Thank you for joining the quarterly meeting. Oh, thanks, Stephanie, for letting us know that you're not ready today either. So being easy on us, I appreciate it. But welcome everyone. We are doing our April quarterly meeting. Our agenda today is going to be focused on sort of some changes that we've made internally here, and then some of the outcomes of our working groups and what our working groups have been focused on. And then we're going to do a policy debriefing where we're focused on sort of the state policies that we're following here at the Food Policy Council, but also Christine's going to provide a little overview of the updated Farm Bill, which is a big deal because the Farm Bill is every 5-year thing that happens, and it does have ramifications that trickle down far and wide. So that's kind of what our overview is going to be. I want to take a moment though to introduce you all to our newest teammate. Rita Higgins has joined the Marion Institute and will be working closely with Christine and I with the Food Policy Council. She's our Director of Food Access and Innovation. She'll be working with all of you in different various ways, but certainly if you are part of the food access or capacity building working group, you'll have probably more contact with Rita, whereas Christine is really heading up more of the food policy work in the policy working group and the education working group. So I just want to give a minute for Rita to say hi and just do you mind introducing yourself, Rita?
Yes, absolutely. And I think I have met many of you now in some of the other work groups and meetings now. So I'm about coming up on 2 months with the Marion Institute. I'm coming from a background of combination of ecological landscapes and local food, as a retailer, as a community organizer, and have done a lot of work around the food systems and the sort of the circularity of compost food waste, local food, and also have been a small producer myself, and so bring that to the table in terms of looking at ways to make our food systems easier to work in for the smallest of the producers so we can have access to more local food.
Awesome, thank you. I don't know why she cannot open the PowerPoint. Rita, do you think you can try to see if you can open the PowerPoint? Can you get onto the server? Let's see it. We might be having a server challenge, y'all. Okay, and then we also wanted to introduce, I think we have some new people joining the CAB that have either been on working groups or you're new to the CAB totally. So I think if you wouldn't mind giving me like a little hand raise, if that's you, and then what we'll do is we'll go around. I want people to have a chance to introduce themselves. Who do we have? Susan, I see you. You're new. Come on.
Susan Murray. I'm the new executive director at CMAP, and I'm also a farmer, Fine Care Farm.
Awesome. And Katerina, trying to find my new.
Hi, my name is Katerina. I'm the community coordinator at the Fall River WIC Nutrition Program.
Oh, nice to finally meet you. That's nice. Great. Who else? I'm trying to identify my new Marlene. Are you able to? You're not on. I can't see you, but.
Hi, sorry, my camera's off. I'm feeling under the weather as well. My name is Marlene Cerritos. I'm the project lead for Partners in Health and also a community organizer for Mujeres Victoriosas in New Bedford.
Awesome. Christine, do you see anybody else? I'm trying to send this to Rita.
Hi, I'm new in these meetings too. My name is Catalina Lopez. I'm also under the weather, and I'm from Project Bread, the VP of Engagement.
So Liz, it seems like I have the ability to share if you want to send it to me. I don't know how that happened.
See if that will come through there, and I can just put it in the chat. See if you can get that. That doesn't look like us, but.
No, wait,
But
that was just what I had up. Hold on.
that looks interesting.
Okay, now let me see if I can open it.
Huh. Christine, do you have your notes though? Can you access those and we'll just have to fly without a PowerPoint if that's okay?
Yeah, I can, I can't, I have no access to the network, so I can't even get those notes.
Okay, all right, I gotcha.
And I have access to the network.
I
So
do,
I
too, so I can do that too. Oh, somebody's
There
got,
you go. Yeah, thank you.
is that you, Rob?
Yes, I think I was able to share it.
Okay,
Yeah, I
God,
think you are too.
awesome.
So can you just start from, start
Mm.
slideshow? I think that'll work. If you go to slideshow, yeah. And from beginning, yay. Takes a village, y'all. Is it
Mm.
possible to have it not show that way? Display settings, maybe?
Yeah.
Swap presenter view and slideshows. Let's see what that does.
Try the view.
There you go.
Perfect.
All right, and I think we can jump ahead a slide or two because we've done introductions and yep. Yeah,
You tell me where to go and I'll keep doing it.
okay. Jump. Go. Yep. We always start with our land acknowledgement, and if we wanted to go back to that land acknowledgement, I'll do a quick read for everybody that's new. We wrote this land acknowledgement for when we did our food system assessment, and then we definitely worked with our community advisory board on finalizing it. And so we like to start all of our CAB meetings, our community advisory board meetings, and our quarterly meetings with our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that this land is the traditional unceded territory of the Wampanoag in the Massachusetts. Pre-English invasion, this place, its gifts of fertile soil, waters, wildlife, and beauty had already sustained indigenous tribes for 12,000 years. We honor and respect the precious food sources discovered, harvested, and cultivated by Native peoples and remain grateful to them for their connectedness to this land and their food traditions. We further acknowledge the lands of Cape Verdeans, African Americans, and Latinx farmed in this area that have been lost to them through structural racism. We make these acknowledgements with intention and accept the responsibility of all we continue to learn. We will honor the resources which sustain us today through their protection. May food be just one of the many connections we use in our work to repair relationships with Indigenous and people of color of all nations living here today. Thank you. We can go on, Rob. All right, we already introduced to you Rita and then invited one of the other structural infrastructure changes that we made this past winter was that anybody that had been a working group member was asked to join the community advisory board. That way that everybody was getting a clear picture of what's happening. And that's why we introduced some of those working group members that are part of the community advisory board today. Go ahead, Rob. Okay, Christine, do you want to take it over or do you want
Sure.
me to go? You just let me know if you need me to step in for you.
Okay. So we do have 3 food equity advisors, one from New Bedford, one from Fairhaven, and one from Fall River. So from January to now, we completed the 3rd focus group, and it was with Marlene, who's on the phone. She was helping us do this focus group with Mujeres Victoriosas in New Bedford. And as part of that, Marlene had offered a suggestion for one of the leaders to be a food equity advisor. A food equity advisor is somebody who has lived experience of hunger. And so she started joining us and we started meeting with her once a month and we started talking about the outcome of the focus group, one of which was getting culturally appropriate food into local food pantries. So we started working on that together. So that's what we were doing with Mujeres Victoriosas. The other 2 food equity advisors we have had already joined the Food Access and Education Communication Working Group, and sometimes jumped onto our community advisory board meeting. So we've been working with them in a variety of ways, one of which just recently wrote an advocacy letter in support of the HIP funding. So apart from joining our working group meetings, they are doing different pieces, whatever they feel called to. And so that's a really important part of what we're doing with food equity advisors. Do you want to add anything, Liz?
Nope, I think that's great.
Any questions from the community?
Okay, Rob. You want me to take this one?
Yeah, actually, if you could.
Yeah, I can hear it in your voice. Okay, so our education and working group. So most of you know, but I love to give the backup because I want everybody to be clear. Last winter, we did a lot of work with using our food system assessment report that we produced and published in October of 2021. And then working with our community advisory board, we did a strategic planning process last winter that helped us to identify 27 priorities within the food system assessment report that got peppered into 4 different working groups: the education and communications working group, a policy working group, food access working group, and capacity building. So then what we did is we worked with additional stakeholders that joined those working groups and CAB members to work on identifying short and long-term goals for each of those 4 working groups last year. So today we're just giving a report out on where we're at with those. So our education and communication working group, the overarching goal is to create a campaign that really, I mean, we feel like with all the work that the Food Policy Council is doing, it's really important for us to make sure that everyone, regardless of which, how they're coming into this understanding of the food system, has a clear understanding of what a food system entails, right? Like, what are all the components of the food system? How do they meld together? What is processing and producing and distributing, and how do these all mingle? And that we're doing it at every level. So whether, we're working with food access and food relief, or we're working with farmers markets and CSAs and farmers, or we're working with institutions and institutional buyers, everybody comes at the food system or just consumers from a very different perspective. So feeling like it was really important for us to have sort of a base layer that everybody could look at and learn more about was important. So one of the things that we started to do with this group is create this and implement this educational campaign. So we've been building this campaign that we call Know Your Food System. The first base of it is that there's going to be a lot of content, almost like you can walk yourself through a course online on our Marian Institute website, so that when we're talking about this and we refer people back to our website, there's going to be content there that's going to help them to tap into learning more about their food system from whatever perspective they're interested at. So it will follow much like the chapters that we did with in our food system assessment. It will follow a deeper dive into producing food, farmers, fisheries, aquaculture, processing, distributing, food access, food waste. So we'll have all these different components, and it will be a kind of a deep dive. In addition to that, we want to do a wider campaign where there's more publicity and marketing going out to the South Coast area to educate people about it. And there'll be things that people can join into. We're looking at doing like an Eat Local Challenge month in July. And then in September, we'll build upon what we started last year, where that's Hunger Awareness Month, and to do more around that. So those are some components of the campaign. It's really that course that we're doing that will be online, and then the ways that people can engage in the work. Any questions about any of that?
The other piece is just an update that thank you, Wendy, for introducing us to Mary Ellen Brisboe at the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth, nursing students who are working with us to put together videos per chapter. So we're working with them on that as well. And we applied for a grant and received it. So
Yes.
Some of that money will be going towards the work that we're doing in this group.
Yeah, that's it. I'm going to going to jump there with you, Christine. So one of our policy successes is that regionally, you know, a lot of us working underneath the the Massachusetts Food System Collaborative worked on trying to get some legislation passed where funding in the state budget would go towards food policy councils. So they did put some money towards, like they did a pilot year this past year, and they put some money towards that food policy councils were eligible to apply to. We did apply to it and we did receive some funding for it, and it is specifically going towards this work in the education working group. We feel like that's the most important, because really getting everybody you know, more educated and knowledgeable about the food system and why building a regional food system is important is really the base of all the other work that we're trying to do within the Food Policy Council. Okay, Rob. Now I'm not sure how this whole survey thing, we've had so many kerfuffles that I don't have a lot of faith in this right now, but we do have a survey. Okay, Christine has posted it in the chat log, and we would love for everybody to take a moment right now to go ahead and click on that form. It will literally take you 3 to 5 minutes to do, but if you could make sure that you do that, either while we're on the call or right when you get off the call, we will be sending the survey out. We just want to do a quick survey prior to this launch of the education campaign, and then we will do a follow-up post survey at the end of the year. And we'll be doing that all the time, just to try to get some sort of data and understanding of what is working and what's not working, and where do we need to focus our efforts more. So if people could take a moment to do that, at least open it up so it's in your browser, and then come back to it, that would be great. Like I said, it's like 12 questions and 3 minutes, really 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, Rob. We can go to the next slide. An update in our, go back one, please. Food Access Working Group. So the focus on the Food Access Working Group, one of the biggest goals that working group had identified was the need for more local healthy food in the food relief system. Those of you that are familiar with our food system assessment report will remember that when we did conducted a focus survey with 490 community members, one of the big takeaways was that the hardest foods to get were fruit, vegetables, fresh produce, meat, and dairy. So there's a lot of foods that come through the Greater Boston Food Bank, but those local foods, those fresh produce were still an area that was really hard to get. So one of the goals that was identified was the creation of a gleaning program in our region. Those of you that are familiar will know that there's the Boston area gleaners that really take care of that Boston area. There's a gleaning program in Rhode Island called Hope's Harvest, but there is nothing here in Southeastern Mass. And I have Susan on here from CMAP who can attest to the fact that we have many, many farms in Southeastern Mass. And so this is a project that we're hoping to put some effort into getting launched in the next year. The work that the Food Access Working Group's been on is create a gleaning program, identify best practices, recruit and train volunteers will be something that is coming forth, and develop a streamlined method of communication among farmers, volunteers, and food pantries to support these initiatives. We've started to identify groups willing to receive gleaned and rescued food, and we'll continue to create those networks and communication pathways. Any questions? Not seeing any hands raised. I'm just going to go ahead, Rob. The capacity building working group, we continue to work on looking how to build infrastructure and networking capacity to create a regional food system. Many of you have listened to me speak ad nauseum about the desire to create a food innovation district in Southeastern Mass, specifically in New Bedford. This work is ongoing. We're continuing to identify potential sites. and to identify core partners that might be involved in the process. Nothing is carved in stone at this point, but it is still something that we're working really hard on. This is a big chunk of what Rita has come on board to help with as well. In addition, go ahead, Christine, you look like you had nothing. Yep. In addition, we're certainly looking at, just going back to capacity, is identifying and supporting pilot projects to establish infrastructure for food-focused ecosystems. So really trying to even work with, our potential partners of how to do more, networking and communication and putting our stakeholders together so that we are, creating those pathways and those networks that go towards building regional food systems. So putting producers in touch with institutional buyers and that kind of thing. And Rob, you can attest to that because you've been doing a really good job with it. Okay, I think I'm going to now make Christine speak again. I hope you got a cough drop, honey. It's a lot because there's a lot in policy. Okay.
Okay. So you guys know this is a key piece to what we do in the South Coast Food Policy Council. And our particular priorities that the Community Advisory Board have identified are permanent HIP, permanent funding for HIP in the budget, permanent funding for the Farm to School grant. We're working on equity in agriculture. It's a very specific bill. We're also working in the whole budget area. So right now we have already done some work. So I'm going to actually save that for just a second. So there are some particular pieces we will be consistent on over time and we'll reevaluate every year. But the new thing this year is going to be the Farm Bill. But Rob, if you can go to the next slide, I want to talk about the successes from January to the present. So in January and February, we did a lot of policy work. This was really about both in terms of getting co-sponsorship, really, it was really the co-sponsorship work that we did. And all these particular issues that we sent letters to are still relevant. And we asked all the members, the 400 members that belong to our email group, to write to their legislators about these particular bills. So the Healthy Incentives Program, the Equity in Agriculture, the Farm to School grants, the food literacy, the universal school meals, protecting farms from PFAS, supporting the Commonwealth food system, which was really building capacity in MDAR to actually help us out, encouraging donations for food for people in need, and establishing basic needs assistance for Massachusetts immigrants. These were all issues we worked on. We do contact regularly 12 senators and representatives that are in our area that we have a connection with. So when you see the highlighted number, those are the people that co-sponsored on early in January and in February. What that means, out of the 12 people, we still have a long way to go. So this is still relevant stuff. My email alert that went out in February is still relevant today to contact your legislators. And I'm going to be sending out another one for amendments. So bills are going through the House and there are now amendments. So I'll be talking about that in a second. Any questions about what we did in January and February?
I'm going to give Christine a second to pause too and get her throat back a little bit. But I think it's important, and this is like a time, like this is not just us reporting out. So we want to hear from you. If there's a way for us to send out information when we have an action alert and we want people to take action that makes it easier for you all to take action on, we would love to hear that. So if anybody has any suggestions that they want to offer now, let's hear it. If you want to think about it and send us an email, we are open to hearing about it. We're trying to make it as easy as possible. I mean, obviously the easiest thing to do, right, is to sign on to a petition, and we know that. But we also recognize that that doesn't get you as far ahead with the legislators than getting individual letters sent by people. I would love to hear if anybody has any thoughts or advice. Susan?
The Food System Collaborative sends out wonderful emails they're short to the point, and they tell you the important verbiage. Like right now they have theirs out for the amendments for the budget. right? And so it tells you, you know, it's just brief and to the point and tells you the action items. And those, of all the emails I receive on policy, those seem to be the most effective, because they have short asks and they give you the language and who you should be reaching out to. Like, here's a link, find your representatives and do this.
Yeah, I do find them to be really clear and concise too. Yep. We can rip off of them, no problem. Other ideas?
Well,
thoughts?
we do that. We give a template letter, so you can just copy and paste. We give the link to the legislators, so it's just sending it out. It's the technology piece we want to make easier. So we are looking for technology that's affordable, like Action Network. That's what I'm looking at right now.
So you can check off an act relevant to universal school meals because it passed.
Yes, that
great.
did. There's some success. We haven't gone through the slides yet.
And
Oh, sorry. Spoiler alert.
That's okay.
and I just reached out to Mr. Schmidt about the Massachusetts immigrant residents, the basic need, which is number 98, I believe.
Fantastic, Katerina. Thank you. All right. So if you know any technology we can use it doesn't cost a lot, that'd be helpful. Rob, I'm going to ask you to move to the next slide. So we also wrote letter to the Ways and Means, the House Ways and Means, asking for support on the supplemental budget from the governor. And those are the key pieces that were in that letter, and they passed the House, just as Rob said. So it's been signed by the governor, and we really appreciate everything the governor proposed, and then both the House and Senate for getting this through. So that's the piece we also did in advocacy. Hey, Rob, can you change it to the next slide? We also did another push. We wrote another letter to the House asking for these particular funding areas for HIP, for food literacy, for the Food Infrastructure Grant Program, for the Department of Ag, and Department of EPA. So these are the issues that we tackled since January, February, and March. These are the things we advocated for. And like Susan said, we just got the advocacy both from all the coalitions we belong to and from the Massachusetts Food System Collaborative. So we will be working on the advocacy again for the amendments for the House. And then we will be working on the Senate Ways and Means. We'll be doing advocacy on the Senate Ways and Means budget. And then we'll be doing amendments on the Senate budget. So there'll be it's the process. You do the advocacy on the actual issues you want funded, then you have to go back in and do the advocacy on the amendments to the budget for both the House and the Senate. So that's look for those things coming up. We'll be sending out those alerts. Any questions? Okay, Brock.
And we can certainly elevate the one that Christine, the email that we sent out, the Bloom email that we sent out last month, since that's still irrelevant. We're happy to resend that if people are it's fresh in your mind. So if getting that more often, I mean, we're always cautious to not send too much, but if you feel like sending out the policy updates a little more often so it stays, relevant in your inbox, we're happy to do that too.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to go through and try to do a quick issue briefing on a massive subject. We are, as the South Coast Food Policy Council, tackling the Farm Bill. There's no greater piece of legislation that can impact both hunger and the food that we actually eat than the Farm Bill. So the Farm Bill is a comprehensive piece of legislation that reoccurs every 5 years. It is developed, then it sunsets every 5 years. So what we want to do is work on it again with all of our partners. So one of the important things to know is when we say comprehensive, it's everything from, like I listed, really looking at how do we increase production, how do we provide incentives, how do we fund nutrition programs, and so on. So the big piece for the anti-hunger advocates is that SNAP is 80% of this budget. Huge. But there are other pieces. And because we are the Policy Council representing all these different stakeholders in the food system, our advocacy is going to be very comprehensive. It's not just going to be the anti-hunger advocates platform. It's going to be quite expansive. So in a very brief highlight, there are 12 titles to the Farm Bill. We are advocating in most of the areas of the titles. And the good news for us is the House Agricultural Subcommittee on Nutrition that actually puts this all together is Representative Jim McGovern from Massachusetts. So we have an opportunity for the rest of the country to take a big push on this particular issue because of Jim McGovern. So we're going to take advantage of that, and we're going to ask everybody over and over again to send a letter to their congressional delegation. Rob, can you move forward with the slide, please? So we worked with the Northeast Organic Farmers Association. We worked with CMAP to talk with James and figure out what everything we're working on is okay. And FRAC, the Food Research and Action Center, and the Mass Law Reform. And this is our particular message that we're going to be pushing out. We want a farm bill that promotes food sovereignty and provides nutritional security for all. We want to invest in and protect organic agroecological practices as a core solution to climate change. We want to ensure just livelihoods for farmers and workers throughout the food system. We want to increase fairness and resilience of local and regional food supply chains. We want to support small to mid-sized farms to mitigate the supply chain vulnerabilities caused by agricultural consolidation. And we want to center racial justice across all programs and repair past and ongoing racial harm. So that's our basic message. But the overarching message when you write to legislators in the subject line is we want a farm bill that supports nutritional security and tackles climate change. So those two key pieces, but these are the particulars. Now we're going to go into a little bit more detail. Rob, if you can move the slide forward a bit. So we are advocating for 12 bills, 5 of which are based on nutrition. So we're going to tackle in commodities. We're going to look at supporting the Milk from Family Dairies Act. In conservation, Title II, we're going to be looking at the Agricultural Resilience Act. In Title IV, we're supporting the following in nutrition: Closing the Meal Gap Act, Improving Access to Nutrition Act, Enhanced Access to SNAP Act, the SNAP Plus Act, and the Lift the Bar Act. And in Title V and credit, we're going to support the Justice for Black Farmers Act. And in Title VI, we're going to support the rural development of strengthening the Local Processing Act. In Title 12 under miscellaneous, we're going to support the Farm Systems Reform Act. And there are 2 other pieces that we're putting in the advocacy. One is to increase the funding for the local agricultural market program of the USDA, and the Food and Agribusiness Merger Moratorium and Antitrust Review Act, which is really looking at consolidation of big industrial farms. So those are that's like the basic highlights of what we're doing. Rob, can you move it one more? Oh, okay. So these are resources to find more information. So the Northeast Organic Farmers Association, you can find our policy issues around the Farm Bill very much line up with what they're doing. The FRAC, the Food Research and Action Center for the Anti-Hunger Advocates, along with the SNAP Coalition. Those are the key pieces that we're really focusing on, those messaging from those areas. And if you want to know more and you want to deep dive, just let me know, and we will work with our partners to pull in potentially another Zoom meeting to do a training on what you guys want to learn more about within the Farm Bill. Having said that, we do have a letter ready to go into the chat, and we're going to send out an action alert. So I think I posted that. I mean, I will post that. I will post that.
And all these resources you'll have all these resources when we send our follow-up notes from today's meeting. So if you're trying to write these things down, you'll get them.
Okay, Rob, can you move it one more further? I can't remember. Oh yeah. So I'm going to post the the document in a second for you to use, but you'll be asked to contact your congressional representatives. You're talking about one representative and two senators, two senators, and it's not an email. You're just going to do it. It's a form letter. So once you go and find your representatives, you're going to go to their website and you're just going to click on contact, and you're just going to copy and paste the letter, post it, put your personal information, and hit send. And that's all it is. So it takes maybe 5 minutes to do. And you will then please let us know if you sent a letter and to whom. We want to track who is received, like how many letters went to so-and-so and how many letters went to so-and-so. We want to be able to track that from our network. So if you could let me know that'd be great. So I'm going to stop talking now. You have any questions while I try to find the document?
And you can go to the next slide, Rob. Okay, so how to stay engaged. Many of you are community advisory board members already and are on working groups with us. Some of you are just members at large and joining us for our quarterly meetings. That's all good. If you're not on our listserv, if you're not on Food Alert listserv, that's a great way to stay up to date on what we're doing. And Christine, maybe you could put that or if you just send an email to that SFPC at Marian Institute and say you want to be on our listserv, that's different from our email list. That's more, updates more regularly. Participate in our events, get involved in our work. If you're interested in joining a working group or the community advisory board, we're always cycling people. So just stay informed and stay connected with us. And also just happy to answer any questions that anybody has today. So if you want to end the slideshow, that way we can see everybody.
I'm sorry, you all. I still cannot access even my desktop.
Yeah, we'll send it out when we send out the notes, so that's no problem. But I just want to take a moment to give anybody else an opportunity to any updates that we have from any of our stakeholders, our partners that are out there that you want to share any information before we still have a few minutes that we could do some community updates.
This isn't really an update, but before I forget, excuse me, sorry. I must also be getting sick like everyone is in the Zoom call. I work in the Ladue Center and we participated in the Earth Eve event with AHA. And I just wanted to say that we used Marian Institute's land acknowledgement. We put it on a banner and it looks really awesome, if I might say, considering I painted it. But I will send a picture. I just have to find a good picture of it. I'd show it off. It's in the office right now, but it's way too long for me to show on camera. So,
oh, neat.
But yeah.
Thanks, Nicole. Thanks for letting us know that. Definitely would love a picture. For those of you that don't know Nicole, she works at UMass Dartmouth at the Ladue Center with Deirdre Healy. Any other update? And our Adam Davenport was Father Ocean this year, and he just became a father. So.
Apart from updates, this is also an opportunity for the community at large to share your concerns or your ideas or your thoughts about what we're doing. Like this is that time.
We're ready for it. Christine might not be. Christine, aren't you happy that I had you get rid of the other 11 Farm Bill slides?
Yeah, I did do a deep dive into the Farm Bill, and then as I was going over it with Liz, we're like, no, I think that's not.
Yeah, that is why, I mean, it really is in depth. So if there's any community members, anybody, any groups that say, hey, I think we would like to go a little bit deeper with understanding the Farm Bill, I do think it's worth our time, right? And it's really important for us to get our voices out there because the big industrial farmers and entities are getting their voices out there. And we want to make sure that the Farm Bill is trickling down. I mean, it's trying to, but it needs our voices to be able to say, no, we want things happening on these local levels. We want small farmers to be supported and not just the big industrial, agro farmers out in the Midwest. So I do think that if you are representing an organization and want to get more information, or you want to do a deeper dive, let us know and we can do a Zoom meeting on just the Farm Bill when Christine feels better.
I would add as well to just thinking about advocacy and politics. And sometimes I think looking at what bills we were able to get some co-sponsorship with, and the one that we didn't get co-sponsorship was the one related to the food system itself. And I think sometimes politically it's easier to get behind a specific issue, where the food system piece, and this really speaks to this Know Your Food System campaign that we're about to launch, is that there is, I think everyone here, we're all here because we believe in the system itself, but that's not necessarily what politicians are thinking about or what legislation is really acting for. So I think to the extent that everyone has their own piece of this puzzle that we're advocating for on a regular basis, talking to everyone, whether they're politicians or just parents. I talk to my dad about the food system all the time. Trying to have just a little conversation in there about the importance of the system itself. And that particular act is just at the state level, a food system coordinator that would be looking at all the different assets in the projects and making sure that everyone's sort of rowing and pulling in the same direction, and there's not redundancy and sort of a misuse of energy and resources that doesn't help the system. So I think sometimes advocacy can feel a little more, feel a little more difficult, but sometimes I think it just starts with a conversation within the community about the system itself.
Points. Any other comments, questions, thoughts?
Are we going in the right direction? Is this, everything you're hearing sound right? I think it's meeting the needs of the community. Is this overwhelming?
All right. Having not even hearing anything from Wendy, I guess we're good. Because if we were wrong, she'd be letting us know. And I appreciate that. All right, y'all.
I do have something to say, though. I think that we have to also recognize that there are short-term needs, that everything we're doing are long-term needs. But I think the problems that we have now with short-term needs are just increasing, and we should have some energy to discuss that at some point in time.
Yeah, we definitely agree with that. And, you know, I often say that the role of the Food Policy Council is to look at the long-term systemic changes that need to happen, because all of you that are stakeholders within the SFPC, within the Food Policy Council, are doing that direct service work. But if there's ways that we can use the Food Policy Council to unite and collaborate and look at, you know, just like we did during the intense time of COVID, we're happy to do that. So I do recognize that, you know, we got a little reprieve with SNAP and the extensions that were given and stuff, but, you know, yes, you're right. There's like, people are still struggling just as much as they were, if not more, during COVID now. So we're happy to help to support that, especially through our food access working group and the work that we're doing in that. So we hear you. Is the Fall River Tuesday group still meeting regularly?
Actually, we met today. I think we had 39 people on the call today. So we're still meeting on a regular basis. But, you know, there's some things the Republicans are talking about reinstating the public charge. We're already hearing from people that are on pathway to immigration that they don't want to go to the food pantries if they're going to have to give their names again. If
Right.
that, now that the pandemic is listed, are we going to go back to some of those regulations that existed beforehand? Nobody really knows. You talk to one food pantry and they're, you know, we want to get back on the computers. We want to limit people's food. And then other food pantries are saying, no, we're going to continue to give like we did beforehand. You know, there's a lot of uncertainty out there and families are feeling it.
Good, very good points. Thank you, Wendy. Anybody else have any comments, thoughts, concerns? Areas that you feel need to be addressed that are not being addressed?
Can we talk about the amendment for HIP? That we're asking for another 14 million? And everyone needs to contact their congressman to try and get that money for HIP.
Yeah, we'll be sending out an alert.
Yeah.
today. But thank you, Susan. Yeah.
Yeah, there are some big priorities. Yep. Okay, well, please be aware of, the emails that are coming from Christine. There's a lot. This is the time of year that all these action, responses are needed from all of you. Please share with your network. We are only as good as how much we expand out. So when you get these and you can share them to your group of 5-10 friends that will take action on it, please continue it, send it out to other people, post it on your social media posts, get the word out. If there's something that you need help with so that you can send it out to people, we're happy to help with you on that way too. So we want to hear from you and make it really achievable. Okay. Well, thank you all for your time. Thanks for joining the April quarterly meeting. We'll look forward to seeing you again in June, unless we're seeing you on our CAB and working group meetings. So be well, and we'll talk with you soon. Thank you.